Hi everybody, Kendall Farnham here at India Hook. Usually it gives me a countdown of 3, 2, 1 and I didn't see it, so I think we're going. I hope so. Good morning. I hope everyone is well. It is Saturday, March 6th when I am taping this. It's a beautiful day here in Rock Hill, which is where I am, South Carolina. I hope it's a great day wherever you are. We're going to start off today with a book called Each Kindness. Thank my friend Claudia for telling me about this book, and I have not read this book yet, so we will find out together what this book is about. And I see on the cover here it won the Coretta Scott King Award. Now Coretta Scott King is Martin Luther King Jr.'s widow, if I recall correctly. She was his wife and she lived after he did, and it talks about, it's an honor book from that, and it says peace, brotherhood, and up at the top, nonviolent social change. So let us see. This book is by Jacqueline Woodson and illustrated by E.B. Lewis. And I don't think I've read anything from Jacqueline Woodson before. So here we go with Each Kindness. And make sure I have the font. Yep, there we go. That winter, snow fell on everything, turning the world a brilliant white. One morning, as we settled into our seats, the classroom door opened and the principal came in. She had a girl with her and she said to us, "This is Maya." Maya looked down at the floor. I think I heard her whisper, "Hello." We all stared at her. Her coat was open and the clothes beneath it looked old and ragged. Her shoes were spring shoes, not meant for the snow. A strap on one of them had broken. Our teacher, Ms. Albert, said, "Say good morning to our new student," but most of us were silent. The only empty seat was next to me. That's where our teacher put Maya. And on that first day, Maya turned to me and smiled. But I didn't smile back. I moved my chair, myself, and my books a little farther away from her. When she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. And every day after that, when Maya came into the classroom, I looked away and didn't smile back. My best friends that year were Kendra and Sophie. At lunchtime, we walked around the schoolyard, our fingers laced together, whispering secrets into each other's ears. One day, near the slide, Maya came over to us. She held open her hand to show us the shiny jacks and tiny red ball she'd gotten for her birthday. "It's a high bouncer," she said, but none of us wanted to play. So Maya played a game against herself. That afternoon, when we got back into the classroom, Maya whispered to me, "Bet you can't guess who the new Jacks champion of the world is." Behind me, Andrew whispered, "Chloe's got a new friend, Chloe's got a new friend." "She's not my friend," I whispered back. The weeks passed. Every day we whispered about Maya, laughing at her clothes, her shoes, the strange food she brought for lunch. Some days, Maya held out her hand to show us what she had brought to school: a deck of cards, pick-up sticks, a small tattered doll. Whenever she asked us to play, we said no. The days grew warmer and warmer. The pond thawed. Grass began growing where snow had once been. One day, Maya came to school wearing a pretty dress and fancy shoes. But the shoes and the dress looked like they'd belonged to another girl before Maya. "I have a new name for her," Kendra whispered. "Never knew. Everything she has came from a second-hand store." We all laughed. Maya stood by the fence. She was holding a jump rope, but did not come over to us to ask if we wanted to play. After a while, she folded it double, rolled the ends around each hand, and started jumping. She jumped around the whole schoolyard without stopping. She didn't look up once, just jumped, jumped, jumped. The next day, Maya's seat was empty. In the class that morning, we were talking about kindness. Miss Albert had brought a big bowl into class and filled it with water. We all gathered around her desk and watched her drop a small stone into it. Tiny waves rippled out away from the stone. "This is what kindness does," Miss Albert said. "Each little thing we do goes out, like a ripple, into the world." Then Miss Albert let us each drop the stone in as we told her what kind things we had done. Joseph had held the door for his grandmother. Kendra helped change her baby brother's diaper. Even mean old Andrew had done something. "I carried teacher's book up the stairs," he said, and Miss Albert said it was true. I stood there, holding Miss Albert's rock in my hand, silent. "Even small things count," Miss Albert said gently. But I couldn't think of anything, and passed the stone on. Maya didn't come to school the next day, or the day after that. Each morning I walked to school slowly, hoping this would be the day Maya returned, and she'd look at me and smile. I promised myself this would be the day I smiled back. Each kindness, Miss Albert had said, makes the whole world a little bit better. But Maya's seat remained empty, and one day Miss Albert announced to the class that Maya wouldn't be coming back. "Move away," Miss Albert said. Then she told us to take out our notebooks. It was time for spelling. That afternoon I walked home alone. When I reached the pond, my throat filled with all the things I wished I would have said to Maya, each kindness I had never shown. I threw small stones into it over and over, watching the way the water rippled out and away, like each kindness done and not done, like every girl somewhere, holding a small gift out to someone, and that someone turning away from it. I watched the water ripple as the sun set through the maples, and the chance of a kindness with Maya became more and more forever gone. And that is the end of that story. Well, that made me kind of sad, I must say, to think of all the chances to be a friend to Maya that Chloe and her classmates didn't take. And it's hard to be the new kid. And it can be hard to greet the new kid if nobody else is doing it. But I hope that you will learn to be brave and be kind to somebody, especially someone who doesn't have any friends, because that's somebody who needs it the most. I don't remember if I said my name. I got If I'd known there was water in this story as well, I could have kept our pitcher and our bowl of water. And I even have some rocks in my office. We could have dropped one in and watched the ripples. So I hope you have a chance sometime to go out to a pond or a lake or a river and toss in a stone and watch the ripples. And even more importantly, I hope you have a chance to do a kindness that goes out into the world and helps somebody. Our next book is called Imani's Moon. And this is another book that I have never read. So we will see what we find out. This book is by an author named Janae Brown Wood with illustrations by Hazel Mitchell. Imani was the smallest child in her village. "Look at tiny Imani," the other children teased. "She's no higher than a lion cub's knee." "Careful," they called to her. "Don't let the meerkats stomp on your head." "Mini Imani, you'll never accomplish anything." Day in and day out, the children teased her, and Imani began to believe them. Every night, Imani's mama lifted her spirits with stories. This night, Mama told her of Olapa, the goddess of the moon who fought a great battle against the god of the sun and triumphed. "Do you think I could do something great like Olapa?" asked Imani. "I do," answered Mama. "Even something like touching the moon?" "Even that," said Mama. "But it is you who must believe." Mama kissed her forehead. Usiku Nuema. Good night, Imani. Good night, Mama. And I don't sure what language that is. That night, Alapa and Imani battled side by side in Imani's dreams. Together they protected the people of Earth from danger, flew through the sky, and guarded the moon. Imani stood tall and brave on the moon with Alapa beside her. The next morning, Imani awoke, inspired to do something great. Later that day, Imani made her way through the village. "Look, it's Imani the ant," called one of the teasing children. "Where are you off to?" teased another. "Going to catch a ride on a beetle's back?" "I am going to touch the moon," answered Imani. The children laughed and followed her. As the moon grew brighter in the late day sky, Imani began to climb the tallest tree. The bark scraped her small hands and legs. On a branch above, Nyoka the snake appeared. "What's going on?" he hissed. "I am going to touch the moon," answered Imani. "That's impossible," Nyoka jeered. "It's much too high." Imani climbed on. As she got higher and higher, climbing became harder and harder. She stretched herself to reach the next branch, but lost her footing and fell to the ground with a thump. "Maybe I won't touch the moon," she sighed. That night, Mama told Imani about Anansi, the small spider who captured a snake to gain a name for himself. "Mama, do you believe that a spider, so small and weak, could really capture a snake so long and quick?" Imani asked. "I do," answered Mama. "Even if no one else believes it?" Imani asked. "A challenge is only impossible until someone accomplishes it," Mama said. "Imani, it is only you who must believe." Imani drifted to sleep and dreamed that she climbed to the top of the highest tree in her village, captured a snake, and made a name for herself. The next day, Imani searched the village and gathered twigs, leaves, sticky berries, and rope. Then she headed back to the tallest tree, sat down, and got to work. "What's Imani the Tiny up to today?" teased the children. "I am going to touch the moon," Imani answered. As the moon began to appear, Imani pulled her creation onto her arms. She spread her arms out wide and sprinted past the tallest tree as quickly as she could. Imani's wings caught a gust of wind. She soared as high as the treetops. "What are you doing up here?" asked Sakwe the chimpanzee, confused to see a flying human. "I'm going to touch the moon," Imani called. "You can't do that! Give up, mocked Sakwe. Imani flew on. Then suddenly a strong burst of wind, too mighty for her delicate wings, sent her sailing into the tree with a crash. The children laughed and left her behind. "I give up," she sighed. Heading back home, Imani heard her village gathered in celebration. The young warriors were performing the adumu, the jumping dance. Over and over again, the warriors jumped high into the sky, their heads caressing the clouds. Cheers and chants rang from the proud villagers. One of the warriors jumped higher than any other. This warrior seemed to fly. Imani could not look away. She cheered the loudest for him. After the celebration, with visions of the adumu, the cheers and chants from her tribe still echoed in her head. When morning broke, Imani went to the tallest tree. The teasing children followed. "She's going to climb again," they hollered, but instead Imani jumped. 1 jump, 2 jumps, 3! Each jump took her higher and higher and higher. Imani jumped all day. As the sky grew darker, Bundi the owl flew by. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I'm going to touch the moon," Imani answered. "Don't fool yourself. You won't make it," hooted Bundi. But Imani jumped on. Her body grew tired. Warrior, she jumped higher than each jump before. In her mind, she could hear only the cheers and chants of her proud village. She could see only herself as one of the warriors rising from the earth. She kept her eyes on the moon above and felt herself getting closer. With a final push of her legs, Imani jumped once more. and soared through the night sky. She landed on the face of the moon. "Alapa," Imani called, "I am here. I am Imani, and I have made it to the moon." "So you have," said a voice in the wind. "Welcome." Imani clapped. She laughed. She sang. She rolled in the moon dust and danced with excitement. As she celebrated, she noticed something shiny. Excuse me. She picked up the thing that dazzled her eye and turned it over in her hands. It was a small, round moon rock, her own tiny moon. "A gift for you, Imani the Great," said the voice. "Thank you, goddess of the moon," Imani smiled. Feeling lighter than ever before, Imani jumped one last time and floated from the moon toward the waiting earth. Down from the sky came Imani, the small girl with the small moon in her hand. All was quiet. No one taunted or hissed or mocked or hooted. That night, Imani called to her mama. "Can I tell you a story tonight?" she asked. "Which one?" asked Mama. "It is the tale of the girl who touched the moon." Mama listened as Imani told her story. "Where did you hear such a tale?" asked Mama. Imani opened her hands and revealed the glowing moon rock, so small and beautiful. "It is my story, Mama," said Imani. "I am the girl who touched the moon and was welcomed by Alapa. I am the one who believed." And that is the end. And there's an author's note at the end of this book. It says, "On the plains of Tanzania and Kenya live the Maasai people, an African tribe known for their bright robes and their cultural jumping dance called the, okay, here it tells me how to say it, Ademu. I pronounced that wrong. I apologize. Ademu. During the Ademu, warriors from the tribe stand in a circle and try to outjump each other, leaping high with their strong legs while barely moving their arms. Sometimes the dance is done while the warriors chant or sing songs. This ritual reminds me of a beautiful and artistic ballet and compelled me to research the Maasai people through several documentaries, books, and photographs. I soon became inspired to write Imani's story." So take a minute and try to jump. Stand up and jump. Leap high with your legs without moving your arms. And that's their whole dance. So that is the story of Imani's life. And it's called "Do Not Bring Your Dragon to Recess." So here we go. This is about being at school, obviously, for having recess. All morning you've worked and given your best. You wrote, you read, you took a math test. It's now time for recess, your well-earned break. But before you head out, please avoid this mistake. The rules of the playground are hard for a beast. He'll break the first one as soon as released. He'll run down the hall, shout to his friends. He'll bump into the principal with his pokey rear end. So do not bring your dragon to recess. Out on the monkey bars, things won't improve. Your dramatic dragon will ruin your groove. She cries and she cries. Her arms are too small. So do not bring your dragon to recess. Maybe he'll vow to keep his feet on the ground and volunteer to push the merry-go-round. We'll start out slow, but soon he will run. Not bring your dragon to recess. You're going a little too fast. You might consider a game of Foursquare. Your dragon's a good sport. She always plays fair. But dragons are huge fans of these sorts of games. And when dragons are excited, out come the flames. So do not bring your dragon to recess. I see what you're saying, and I admit to you that a dragon at recess could create a real zoo. But my dragon is smart. He can learn all the rules. He'll listen to teachers when he's playing at school. He'll be patient and take turns. He'll share all the toys. He'll be respectful and kind to all girls and boys. I know he can do it. You just have to say yes. May I please bring my dragon to play at recess? In my mind, dragon's respectful. Well, then, I guess he is more than welcome at our school recess. And that is the end of Do Not Bring Your Dragon to Recess. I'm a little more interested in why there's a dragon at school, but it sounds like fun. Now, this reminds me a little bit of a movie from a few years ago called How to Train Your Dragon. It was a favorite of mine. And there were several sequels. I think, no, there were 3 of them. How to Train Your Dragon. I liked it very much. All right, we have another book by Eric Carle. We've had several from Eric Carle. This one is called Friends, and it's a simple cover with 2 friends who are hugging each other. So let's see what we're going to learn about friends today. Once there were 2 friends who were always together. Together they played and ran and danced and told each other secrets. But one day, the boy was all alone. His friend was gone. She had moved far away. I miss her, he said, wherever. And here's a beautiful picture of all the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jumped into the swift river. The water was cold. Brr! The river was wide, so it took a long time to swim across it. When he got to the other side, it was already dark. The stars watched. The next morning, he saw a tall mountain ahead. He started up one side of it. The path was steep. It was hard work. Finally, he got to the top, and then he slid right down the other side. Plunk! The boy landed in a broad meadow. It was a hot day. The grass was dewy, damp, and cool. He strolled through it. Then all of a sudden, it began to rain. Splish, splash! He had to dash through the falling drops. After a while, the boy felt tired. He fell asleep and dreamed that he was floating on a cloud. He woke up deep in a forest. A flower garden! He gathered a bouquet. And there was his friend. I have found you, he shouted. I knew you would come, she said. Together they played and ran and danced and told each other secrets and got married. And that is the end. And this is a picture from a note from Eric Carle. It says, here I am with a friend in Syracuse, New York. I was 3 years old and so was she. My German mother took this picture. She wrote June 1932 in the corner. When I was 6, I moved far away. We never saw each other again. I often think about my long ago friend, and I wonder what happened to her. And that is the end of Friends, with all the beautiful pictures. And nowadays, we have simple ways to keep in touch with friends that move away. We have telephones and computers and Facebook messages and emails and ways to immediately contact people. So it's a little different. In years long past, it would be much harder to keep up with somebody. I think we have time for one more story, so we will read another book by Eve Bunting. We've had several from Eve Bunting, and this one is called Swan. On the lake was a boat shaped like a swan. Her name, Dora, was printed in black on her sparkling paint. Swan loved her. In spring and summer, when people rowed in the boat, Swan followed. How cute, the people said. Sometimes they threw him breadcrumbs. Once a hand, soft his neck down, reached out to stroke his feathers. Swan had never felt anything so comforting. The other swans muttered among themselves, "He makes us look stupid. Doesn't he know she's not one of us?" Swan knew. He knew that it didn't matter. The fish laughed their silvery laughs. "Swan's in love. Doesn't he know she's different?" Swan knew. He knew that difference makes no difference to love. The frogs who lived in the thin lake reeds croaked, "This is wrong, wrong, wrong." Swan heard. He knew that love was never wrong. Some tipped down to drink the lake water. "It would be wiser if you gave your love to another swan," she said. Swan listened politely. He knew that love wasn't always wise. He bobbed on the water next to Dora, happy there with only the floating moon between them. There were times when Swan heard another mysterious voice. Not a swan, not a fish, not a frog, not an opossum. "Don't ever stop loving," it said. Swan thought it came from the sky, or the lake, or the air itself. The voice was a friend. In winter, when the lake clinked with floating ice, the man who owned the Swan boat came to pull her out of the water. "See you in spring, Dora," he said. Then Swan lay day and night on the frosted grass beside her. The other swans left. The fish and the frogs dived below the ice to hide till the weather changed. A possum stayed warm in her den. Canada geese came. "That silly swan is still here," they honked. Imagine. They rested on the ice, then rose again below the clouds. "Come with us," they called. "We'll fly slowly. We'll help you find your friends. Winter is long and you will be alone." "Thank you," Swan said, "but I won't be alone." He tucked his head beneath his wing. Winters did seem longer and colder every year. He was stiffer than he'd once been, slower. And Dora, cracks thin as spiders' webs veined her body. Her white gleam had turned to the gray of lake pebbles. In winter, the voice spoke to him through the pale sunshine or starlit wind. Faithful didn't understand, but the voice warmed him. One spring, the man came, fat as a bear in his bundle of a coat. "You're not looking good, old girl." Swan flapped in beside her. Trickles of water streamed through Dora's cracks. "Oh my," the man said. "I've got to get you out of there before you sink like a rock." His great rubber boots squelched mud as he dragged her back out. Swan's heart beat thick in his breast. "Dora!" The man kicked gently at her sides. A crack widened. "Poor old thing," he said. "Looks like there's nothing we can do for you. I'll come back in a day or two and break you up. Hate to do it, but..." Swan fluttered out of the lake, hissing and spitting. He bit at the big rubber boot. The man fended him off. "Okay now, take it easy, fella. I know how you feel and I'm sorry, but our Dora's finished. And you don't look so good yourself." Swan hunched over next to Dora, listening as the man's truck roared away, listening to the silence of their lake. Finished. He drifted through waves of time, his body light as mist, and he heard the voice, soft and comforting as that hand that had once stroked him. There was a flowing then, a streaming against Swan's folded wings, and he was somewhere, Dora beside him. But she wasn't Dora, though he knew she was. And he wasn't Swan, though he knew he was. Love makes magic, he thought, and he looked down from a distance and saw them. 2 water lilies resting quietly on the lake. Nothing between them but the floating moon. And that is the end of Swan in Love. Love made magic. And that is all we have for today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. and get out and enjoy some fresh air and sunshine. Remember that you are loved. Be safe, be well, love people around you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.